The scent of fresh-baked cinnamon rolls drifted through the cool morning air, mingling with the aroma of roasted coffee beans and caramelized sugar. Harper Monroe stood behind the glass counter of Sweet Crumbs Bakery, her flour-dusted apron tied snugly around her waist, her dark hair pulled back into a messy bun that refused to stay in place, no matter how many times she pinned it. The early sun cast golden beams through the large storefront windows, illuminating rows of golden croissants, glazed donuts, and perfectly frosted cupcakes, arranged like tiny works of art. Harper had been working at the bakery for 3 years now, ever since she dropped out of culinary school to help her grandmother pay off medical bills. She didn't mind the early mornings or the flour permanently embedded under her fingernails. What she did mind were the rude customers who treated her like she was invisible. And speaking of rude customers, one was about to walk through the door. The bell above the entrance chimed, and Harper looked up from the tray of chocolate eclairs she was arranging. A man stepped inside, tall and imposing, dressed in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than her entire month's rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, cold steel blue, swept across the bakery with the kind of disdain reserved for places far beneath him. Harper recognized him instantly. Dominic Kane, billionaire CEO of Kane Enterprises, a tech empire that had reshaped half the city's skyline. His face was plastered on business magazines, always with that same expression. Stoic, unreadable, unreachable. Rumor had it he'd never been seen smiling. Not once. Not even in childhood photos. He walked to the counter with deliberate steps, his expensive leather shoes clicking against the worn wooden floor. Harper straightened, wiping her hands on her apron, and forced her brightest customer service smile. "Good morning. What can I get for you?" His gaze flicked to her briefly before scanning the display case. Black coffee, large, no sugar, no cream, nothing else. Harper nodded, already reaching for a cup. "Anything to eat? We have fresh cinnamon rolls. They're still warm." "No." His tone was clipped, final, as if the very idea of eating something sweet offended him personally. Harper bit back a retort and turned to pour his coffee. She could feel his eyes on her back, cold and assessing, like she was a spreadsheet he was auditing. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed for the briefest second. His skin was surprisingly warm. "That'll be $4.50. Dominic pulled out his wallet without a word, handed her a crisp $20 bill, and turned toward the door before she could even offer change. "Wait, your change. Keep it." He didn't look back. The door swung, shut behind him, the bell chiming mockingly. Harper stared at the 20 in her hand, then at the door, then back at the 20. She let out a slow breath and muttered to herself. "Wow, what a charming guy. I bet his employees just love him." Her coworker, Jenna, emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Was that Dominic Kane? Harper rolled her eyes. "Yeah, Mr. Sunshine himself." Jenna leaned against the counter, grinning. "You know, they say he's never smiled. Like, ever. Not even when he closed that billion-dollar deal last year." Harper snorted. "I believe it. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else than breathing the same air as us common folk." Still, Jenna sighed dreamily. "He's gorgeous." Harper shot her a look. Gorgeous and completely insufferable. That was the first time Harper Monroe met Dominic Kane. She didn't think much of it. Rich guys like him came and went. They ordered their overpriced coffee, left generous tips out of obligation, and never looked her in the eye. But what Harper didn't know was that Dominic Kane had noticed her. Not her smile, not her flour-dusted apron, but the way her eyes had flashed with irritation when he didn't take his change. The way her voice had stayed polite, even though he could tell she wanted to throw the coffee in his face. And for the first time in years, something stirred inside the cold, controlled world of Dominic Kane. Curiosity. The next morning, at exactly 7:15 a.m., the bell above the door chimed again. Harper looked up from restocking the pastry case and froze. Dominic Kane stood in the doorway. Same suit, same cold expression, same aura of a man who could buy the entire block without blinking. "You've got to be kidding me," Harper muttered under her breath. He walked to the counter. Black coffee. Large. No sugar. No cream. Harper grabbed a cup, poured the coffee, and slid it across the counter. $4.50. He handed her another $20. "Keep the change." And just like before, he turned to leave. Harper's patience snapped. She didn't know what possessed her. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe it was the student loan reminder she'd gotten that morning. But she called out. "You know, you could at least say, 'Thank you.'" Dominic stopped. Slowly, he turned back to face her. His expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened, like a predator noticing movement in the underbrush. "Excuse me?" Harper crossed her arms, her heart pounding but her chin lifted. "I said, you could say thank you, or good morning, or literally anything that acknowledges I'm a human being and not a coffee-dispensing robot." For a long, tense moment, he said nothing. Then his lips parted. "Thank you." The words were flat, emotionless, like he was reading from a script. Harper blinked. That was the least sincere thank you I've ever heard. Dominic tilted his head slightly, and for a fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Amusement? Annoyance? She couldn't tell. "You're welcome." And then he left. Jenna burst out of the kitchen, eyes wide. "Oh my God, did you just scold Dominic Kane?" Harper slumped against the counter, adrenaline draining. "I think I just signed my own death warrant." But the strangest thing happened. The next morning, Dominic Kane came back, and the morning after that, and the one after that. Every single day, at exactly 7:15 a.m., he walked through the door, ordered the same black coffee, and left the same $20 bill. But now, every time, he said two words: "Thank you." And every time, Harper felt her heart do a stupid little flip she absolutely refused to acknowledge. By the end of the first week, Harper had started to anticipate the sound of the bell at 7:15 a.m. It became part of her routine. Brew the coffee, set out the pastries, wait for the cold billionaire to walk in like clockwork. Jenna teased her relentlessly. "He's totally into you," Harper scoffed while kneading dough. "He's not into me. He probably doesn't even remember my name." "Does he know your name?" "No." "Exactly." Jenna grinned. "But he keeps coming back. That means something. It means he likes overpriced coffee. Or," Jenna leaned in conspiratorially, "he likes the girl who makes it." Harper threw a dish towel at her. "Stop." But deep down, she wondered, why did someone like Dominic Kane, who could have coffee delivered by a private chef, keep coming to a tiny neighborhood bakery? On Friday morning, Harper decided to test a theory. When Dominic walked in at 7:15, she greeted him with her usual smile. "Let me guess. Black coffee? Large? No sugar? No cream?" "Correct." But today, she didn't pour it right away. Instead, she leaned on the counter and looked him straight in the eye. "You know, you've been coming here every day for a week, and I still don't know why." Dominic's expression remained unchanged. "I like the coffee." Harper raised an eyebrow. "There are 5 coffee shops between here and your office. 3 of them are closer. Why this one?" For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, in that low, measured voice, "Because no one else tells me to say thank you." Harper's breath hitched. She hadn't expected that. Dominic reached into his wallet, but this time, instead of handing her a 20, he placed a business card on the counter. "If you ever want a job that pays better than this, call me." And then he left, coffee in hand, leaving Harper staring at the card. Dominic Kane, CEO, Kane Enterprises. Below it, a phone number. Jenna snatched the card the second she saw it. Oh my God. Oh my God. He just gave you his number. That's not his personal number, that's his office. Still, Jenna clutched the card dramatically. This is fate. Harper rolled her eyes, but she slipped the card into her apron pocket. That weekend, Harper couldn't stop thinking about it. She told herself it was just a polite gesture. Rich people did that sometimes, offered jobs to service workers to feel charitable. But Monday morning, when Dominic walked in at 7:15, something was different. He wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, tall and elegant, wearing a designer dress and heels that could double as weapons. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves, and her smile was sharp enough to cut. "Dominic, darling, must we stop at this little place?" Her voice dripped with condescension. "It'll only take a minute." Dominic's tone was curt. Harper's stomach twisted. She busied herself with wiping down the counter, trying not to look. "Black coffee," Dominic said when he reached the counter. And he glanced at the woman. "Vanessa?" She wrinkled her nose. "Do you have anything low-calorie?" "We have fruit," Harper offered. Vanessa's eyes flicked to her, dismissive. "Never mind. I'll wait outside." She turned on her heel and left. Dominic handed Harper a 20. Harper poured the coffee in silence, her hand steady even though her chest felt tight. She didn't know why it bothered her. It wasn't like she and Dominic were anything. They weren't even friends. He was just a customer. A ridiculously handsome, emotionally unavailable customer who apparently had a girlfriend. When she handed him the coffee, their eyes met. For a second, she thought she saw something. Regret? Apology? But then he took the cup and walked out without a word. Jenna appeared instantly. Who was that? His girlfriend, probably. Harper's voice came out flatter than she intended. Jenna frowned. "You okay?" "Yeah. Why wouldn't I be?" But that night, lying in her tiny apartment above the bakery, Harper stared at Dominic's business card on her nightstand. She told herself to throw it away, to stop thinking about a man who lived in a completely different world, to stop wondering what it would be like if he smiled. Just once. The next morning, Dominic didn't come. Harper told herself she didn't care. But when 7:15 passed, then 30, then I darka, she kept glancing at the door. He probably proposed to that blonde woman. Good for him. Jenna nudged her. "You're sulking." "I'm not sulking. You're totally sulking." Harper sighed. "Fine. Maybe a little. But it's stupid. I barely know him." Jenna gave her a knowing look. Sometimes barely knowing someone is enough. That afternoon, as Harper was closing up, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A deep, familiar voice responded. "It's Dominic Kane." Harper nearly dropped the phone. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "How did you get my number?" "You wrote it on the receipt last week, when you told me to have a nice day." Harper's face burned. She had no memory of doing that. "Oh." There was a pause. Then Dominic said, "The woman you saw yesterday. She's not my girlfriend." Harper's breath caught. "Okay, she's a business associate. My father keeps trying to set us up. I have no interest. Why are you telling me this?" Another pause, longer this time. "Because you looked upset, and I didn't like it." Harper's pulse roared in her ears. She opened her mouth, closed it, then managed. "You don't owe me an explanation." "I know, but I wanted to give you one anyway." She didn't know what to say. The silence stretched, not awkward, but charged. Finally, Dominic spoke again. "Have dinner with me." Harper's eyes widened. "What?" Dinner? Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. She scrambled for words. Why? Because, Dominic said, and for the first time, she heard the faintest hint of something softer in his voice. I want to see if you're brave enough to scold me in a restaurant, too. Despite herself, Harper laughed, a real breathless laugh. Okay. Good. And Harper? Yeah. Wear something comfortable. I don't want you blaming your shoes if you trip. She could hear the smile in his voice, the smile she'd never seen but suddenly, desperately wanted to. Good night, Dominic. Good night, Harper. When she hung up, she stood there, phone pressed to her chest, heart racing. Jenna was going to lose her mind, and honestly, so was she. Because somewhere between black coffee and sarcastic remarks, Harper Monroe had started falling for the man who never smiled. And tomorrow night, she was going to find out if maybe, just maybe, he was falling for her too. Harper spent the entire next day in a state of controlled panic. She burned a batch of croissants, forgot to add sugar to the lemon tarts, and nearly spilled an entire pot of coffee on herself. Jenna noticed immediately. You're a disaster today. What's going on? Harper bit her lip, then blurted. I have a date. Jenna's eyes went wide. With who? Dominic Kane. Jenna screamed. Actually screamed. Loud enough that 2 customers at the corner table looked over in alarm. Harper clamped a hand over her mouth. Sure. Are you insane? You have a date with Dominic Kane and you didn't tell me immediately? I'm telling you now. When? Tonight. Where? I don't know. He just said dinner. Jenna grabbed her by the shoulders. Harper Monroe, you are living every romance novel fantasy right now. Do not screw this up. I'm going to screw it up. No, you're not. You're amazing. You're smart, funny, gorgeous. Harper gave her a look. I smell like cinnamon and yeast. Jenna waved a hand. Men love that. Trust me. By the time Harper's shift ended, her nerves were shot. She raced upstairs to her apartment, rifled through her closet, and realized with horror that she owned exactly 3 dresses. One was for funerals, one was from high school, and one was a floral sundress she wore to her cousin's wedding 2 years ago. She grabbed the sundress. It would have to do. She showered, blow-dried her hair until it fell in soft waves, and applied just enough makeup to look like she wasn't trying too hard. When she checked the mirror, she barely recognized herself. You can do this, she whispered. It's just dinner. With a billionaire, who makes your heart race every time he looks at you. No big deal. At exactly 7 o'clock, her phone buzzed. I'm outside. Harper grabbed her purse, took a deep breath, and headed downstairs. The sight that greeted her made her stop in her tracks. Dominic stood beside a sleek black car, hands in his pockets, wearing dark jeans and a fitted white button-down. No suit. No tie. Just effortlessly, devastatingly handsome. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression. His eyes softened, just a fraction. You look beautiful. Harper's cheeks flushed. Thanks. You look, she gestured vaguely, less intimidating. He almost smiled. Almost. Shall we? He opened the car door for her, and Harper slid inside. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Dominic got in beside her, and the driver pulled away from the curb. So, Harper said, trying to sound casual, where are we going? Somewhere quiet. You'll see. She wanted to press, but something about the way he said it made her trust him. They drove through the city, past glittering high-rises and bustling streets, until they reached the waterfront. The car stopped in front of a small, unassuming building with a wooden sign that read, Emilio's. Harper blinked. This is your idea of dinner? Dominic got out and came around to open her door. Best Italian food in the city. No photographers, no pretense, just good food. Harper's heart squeezed. She'd expected some 5-star restaurant with a 3-month waiting list. But this felt personal. Inside, the restaurant was cozy and warm. Soft candlelight flickered on red checkered tablecloths, and the scent of garlic and fresh basil filled the air. An older man with a thick mustache greeted them at the door. "Dominic! It's been too long." He pulled Dominic into a hug, and Harper watched, stunned. The cold, untouchable CEO was hugging someone. "Emilio," Dominic said, gesturing to Harper. "This is Harper." Emilio beamed. "Ah, Bella. Welcome. Welcome." He led them to a corner table by the window overlooking the water. As they sat, Harper leaned forward. "You come here often?" Dominic nodded. "My mother used to bring me here when I was a kid. Before she—" He stopped, his jaw tightening. Harper's chest ached. "Before she what?" "Before she passed." "I was 12. Harper reached across the table and touched his hand. "I'm sorry." He looked down at her hand on his, then back up at her. "Thank you." For a moment, the walls he kept so carefully constructed seemed to crack, just a little. The food arrived, plates of homemade pasta, fresh bread, and wine that tasted like sunshine. They talked. Really talked. Dominic asked about her childhood, her dreams, why she'd left culinary school. Harper found herself telling him things she rarely shared, about her grandmother's illness, the debt, the way she'd put her life on hold to help. "You didn't have to do that," Dominic said quietly. "Yes, I did. She's family." He studied her for a long moment. "You're remarkable." Harper laughed softly. "I'm really not. I make pastries and yell at rude customers. You stood up to me." "No one does that." "Maybe they should." His lips twitched. There. The ghost of a smile. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront. The city lights reflected off the water, and a cool breeze ruffled Harper's hair. "Well, did you really ask me to dinner?" she asked. Dominic stopped walking. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Harper's breath caught. "You barely know me. I know enough." He stepped closer. "I know you're brave. I know you're kind. I know you make me feel something I haven't felt in years." "What?" she whispered. "Human." Her heart pounded. She could feel the heat radiating from him, see the conflict in his eyes. "Dominic." "Don't," he said softly. "Don't tell me this is a bad idea. I already know. But I don't care." And then, before she could think, before she could second guess, Harper rose up on her toes and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, a question more than a demand. For a split second, Dominic froze. Then his hands came up to cup her face, and he kissed her back. Deeply. Desperately. Like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to the earth. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Harper stared up at him. "You're even more handsome when you're angry," she whispered, remembering the way he'd looked when she scolded him that first day. Dominic laughed. Actually laughed. A low, genuine sound that made her heart soar. "You're impossible. And you're smiling." His smile widened. "So I am." They stood there, wrapped in each other, the city glittering around them. And for the first time in years, Dominic Kane felt something other than cold. He felt warmth. He felt hope. He felt alive. All because of a bakery girl who wasn't afraid to tell him the truth. The next morning, Harper woke up with a smile she couldn't wipe off her face. She floated through her morning routine, humming as she tied her apron, practically dancing as she arranged the pastries. Jenna took one look at her and gasped. "Oh my God, you slept with him?" "What?" "No." Harper's face turned crimson. "We just kissed," Jenna squealed. "I knew it. I knew he was into you. Tell me everything." Harper glanced around the empty bakery, then leaned in. "It was perfect, Jenna. He took me to this little Italian place. We talked for hours. And then he kissed me. Actually, I kissed him first. Jenna's jaw dropped. You kissed Dominic Kane first. Harper nodded, biting her lip. I don't know what came over me. I wanted to. And he kissed me back, like really kissed me back. Jenna grabbed her hands. You're living the dream. Don't wake up. But reality had a way of intruding. That afternoon, as Harper was cleaning tables, the bell chimed. She looked up, expecting a customer. Instead, 3 people in expensive suits walked in. 2 men and a woman, all carrying briefcases and expressions that screamed, corporate. Can I help you? Harper asked. Are you Harper Monroe? The woman asked. Yes. We're from Kane Enterprises. Legal department. Harper's stomach dropped. We've been instructed to deliver this. The woman handed her a thick envelope. Harper's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a contract, a non-disclosure agreement. Her eyes scanned the pages. Words jumped out. Confidentiality, relationship, media, termination clause. She looked up, confused. I don't understand. Mr. Kane has requested that you sign this NDA before your relationship proceeds further. It's standard procedure for anyone in his personal life. Harper's chest tightened. Standard procedure. The woman's expression softened slightly. It's for your protection as much as his. The media can be ruthless, but the words felt like a slap. Last night, Dominic had held her like she mattered, like she was more than just a contract. And now this. I need to think about it, Harper said quietly. You have 48 hours. The woman nodded, and the 3 of them left as quickly as they'd come. Harper stood there, staring at the contract, feeling the warmth from last night drain away. Jenna came out from the kitchen. What was that about? They want me to sign an NDA. Jenna's eyes widened. Seriously? Harper sank into a chair. I knew his world was different. But this makes it feel like I'm just another risk he needs to manage. Call him. Talk to him. What if he doesn't know? Harper looked at her. He's the CEO. Of course he knows. That evening, Harper didn't call. Instead, she threw herself into baking. Kneading dough, rolling crusts, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind quiet. But at 9 o'clock, her phone rang. Dominic. She stared at the screen, heart warring with head. Finally, she answered. Hello? Harper. His voice was warm, familiar. I wanted to hear your voice. She closed her eyes. Your lawyers came by today. Silence. Then, I know. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want it to ruin last night. Harper's throat tightened. It feels like you're trying to buy my silence. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Protection. For both of us. My life is under constant scrutiny. If we're going to do this, I need to know you're protected. Harper's voice cracked. It feels like you don't trust me. I trust you more than I've trusted anyone in years. But the world I live in, it's ruthless. I've seen people I care about destroyed by media. I won't let that happen to you. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But the contract sat on her counter, cold and clinical. I need time, she whispered. Take all the time you need. But Harper. Yeah? Don't shut me out. She hung up before she started crying. The next day, Harper avoided the bakery. She called in sick, spent the day walking through the city, trying to clear her head. She ended up at the waterfront, standing at the spot where Dominic had kissed her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. I'm sorry. I handled this wrong. Meet me tonight. Please. She stared at the message. Every instinct told her to run, to protect herself, to avoid the inevitable heartbreak of falling for someone whose world would never truly accept her. But another part of her, the part that remembered the way he'd laughed, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only person in the room, whispered, Give him a chance. At 7 o'clock, Harper found herself standing outside the address he'd sent. It wasn't a restaurant. It was an apartment building, penthouse level. Her heart pounded as she rode the elevator up. When the doors opened, Dominic was waiting. He looked tired, vulnerable. "Come in," he said softly. Harper stepped inside. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, but she barely noticed. Dominic closed the door behind her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have talked to you first. Should have explained. You should have trusted me." "I do. But trust in my world is complicated." Harper crossed her arms. "Then help me understand." He ran a hand through his hair. "When I was 25, I dated someone. A woman I thought I loved. She sold our story to the tabloids. Pictures, private conversations, everything. It almost destroyed my company. My father never forgave me." Harper's anger softened. "I'm not her. I know. But the fear, it's hard to let go." She stepped closer. "If we're going to do this, you can't protect me by pushing me away. I need you to let me in. All the way." Dominic looked at her, and for the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. "What if I hurt you? Then we'll deal with it. Together." He reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You terrify me." "Good," she smiled. "You terrify me, too." And then she kissed him. This time, there was no hesitation. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her flush against him. She tangled her fingers in his hair, and the world outside disappeared. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "Tear up the NDA. What?" "Tear it up. I don't want this to be transactional. I want it to be real." Harper's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm willing to risk it, if you are." She kissed him again, softer this time. "I'm in," he smiled, that real, breathtaking smile she'd been waiting for. "Then let's figure this out. Together." And for the first time since the lawyers had walked into her bakery, Harper felt like, maybe, just maybe, they actually had a chance. The weeks that followed felt like a dream Harper was afraid to wake up from. Dominic became a regular fixture in her life, not just at the bakery, but everywhere. He'd show up after work, tie loosened, exhaustion softening his sharp edges, and sit at the corner table while she closed up. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't, but his presence alone made everything feel lighter. "You don't have to wait for me every night," Harper said one evening as she wiped down the counters. "I want to." "Why?" "Because this," he gestured around the small bakery, "this is the only place I feel like myself." Harper's heart squeezed. She crossed to him, leaning against the table. "You could feel like yourself anywhere. Just be you." He caught her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "It's not that simple. In my world, everything is a performance. Boardrooms, investors, media. I can't afford to be human. You're human with me. That's why I keep coming back." She kissed him then, soft and slow, tasting coffee and something sweeter. When she pulled away, his eyes were darker, intense. "Stay with me tonight." Harper's breath hitched. "Dominic, please." There was no arrogance in his voice, just raw honesty. She nodded. "Okay." They drove to his penthouse in comfortable silence. When they stepped inside, the city glittered below them, a sea of lights stretching endlessly. Harper walked to the window, pressing her palm against the cool glass. "It's beautiful." Dominic came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Not as beautiful as you." She laughed softly. That was incredibly cheesy. "I know. But it's true." She turned in his arms, looking up at him. "You're different when we're alone." He kissed her forehead. "Because I don't have to pretend with you." They moved to the couch, tangled together, talking about everything and nothing. Dominic told her about his father, a man who measured worth in profit margins and saw emotions as weaknesses. Harper told him about her dreams, the cookbook she wanted to write someday, filled with her grandmother's recipes. "You should do it," Dominic said. "Maybe someday." "No. Now. I'll help you." Harper smiled. "You're a tech CEO. What do you know about publishing? I know people. And I believe in you." Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. Not like that. Not with such absolute certainty. "I don't deserve you." Dominic's expression grew serious. "Yes, you do. You deserve everything." And then he kissed her, and the kiss deepened, turned hungry. His hand slid into her hair, and she pressed closer, feeling the heat of him through his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Dominic's voice was rough. "If you want to stop, tell me now." Harper looked into his eyes, saw the restraint there, the way he was holding himself back. "I don't want to stop. Are you sure?" She answered by kissing him again, and this time there was no hesitation. They moved to his bedroom, a tangle of whispered words and gentle touches. Dominic was careful, reverent, like she was something precious. And for the first time in her life, Harper felt truly seen. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her shoulder. "You okay?" he murmured. "More than okay." "Good. Because I don't plan on letting you go." She smiled against his skin. "Possessive much?" "Always. When it comes to you." The next morning, Harper woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, and found Dominic standing by the window, fully dressed in a suit, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was clipped. Professional. "I don't care what the board thinks. Move the meeting." "No." I said, "Move it." He hung up and turned, his expression softening when he saw her. "Morning." Harper stretched. "You're up early." "Old habits." He crossed to her, leaning down to kiss her. "There's coffee in the kitchen. And breakfast." "You made breakfast?" He smirked. "I had it delivered." "Of course you did." She got up, found one of his shirts and pulled it on. It hung past her thighs, the sleeves covering her hands. When she walked into the kitchen, she found pastries from a high-end bakery arranged on the counter. She picked up a croissant, took a bite, and wrinkled her nose. "What's wrong?" Dominic asked, coming up behind her. "It's too buttery. And the layers aren't right." He raised an eyebrow. "You're critiquing a Michelin-starred bakery." Harper shrugged. "I have standards." He laughed, pulling her against him. "You're adorable. I'm serious. This croissant is mediocre at best. Then you'll have to teach me how to make a proper one." Harper grinned. "Deal." But that fragile bubble of happiness didn't last long. That afternoon, as Harper was working at the bakery, Jenna burst through the door, phone in hand, face pale. "Harper, you need to see this." "What?" Jenna turned the phone around. On the screen was a tabloid headline, "Billionaire's Secret Romance." Below it, a photo of Harper and Dominic leaving his building that morning, her in his shirt, him with his hand on her back. Harper's stomach dropped. "Oh my God." "It gets worse." Jenna scrolled down. The article was brutal. "Who is she?" "Gold digger alert. From nobody to billionaire's bed." "How much is he paying her?" Harper sank into a chair, hands shaking. "This can't be happening. I'm so sorry." Harper grabbed her phone and called Dominic. He answered immediately. "I saw. I'm handling it." "Handling it how?" "My PR team is working on a statement." "A statement?" Harper's voice rose. "Dominic, they're calling me a gold digger." "I know. And it's not true. We'll make that clear." She pressed a hand to her forehead. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Harper! Don't. Don't what? Don't pull away. I'm not pulling away. I'm being realistic. Your world is tearing me apart, and we've only been together a few weeks. It'll get better. Will it? Or will it just get worse? Silence. Then quietly. I don't know. But I'm not giving up on us. Harper's throat burned. I need time. Harper! Please. Dominic. I need to think. She hung up before he could respond. Jenna put a hand on her shoulder. What are you going to do? Harper looked at the photo again, at the comments beneath it. Cruel, vicious, unrelenting. I don't know. But she did know one thing. Loving Dominic Kane came with a price, and she wasn't sure if she was strong enough to pay it. For 3 days, Harper didn't answer Dominic's calls. She threw herself into work, baking until her hands ached, avoiding her phone like it was a live grenade. But the tabloids didn't stop. Every day there was a new article, new speculation, new photos dug up from security cameras and anonymous sources. The bakery became a circus. Reporters camped outside, shoving microphones in her face every time she stepped out. Customers whispered and stared. One even asked for a selfie, like Harper was some kind of celebrity. It was suffocating. I can't do this anymore, Harper told Jenna on the 3rd night, slumped over the counter after closing. Then don't. Jenna sat beside her. Talk to him. What's the point? This is his life. It's always going to be like this. So you're just gonna give up? Harper looked at her. What would you do? Jenna sighed. Honestly? I'd be terrified. But I'd also remember the way he looks at you. Like you're the only person in the world. That night, as Harper walked upstairs to her apartment, she found someone sitting on the steps. Dominic. He looked exhausted. His suit was rumpled, his tie missing, dark circles under his eyes. What are you doing here? He asked quietly. Waiting for you. You should have called. You weren't answering. Harper crossed her arms. So you decided to ambush me? If that's what it takes. She sighed and unlocked the door. Fine. Come in. Her apartment was tiny compared to his penthouse. 1 room, a bed, a couch, a kitchen the size of a closet. Dominic stepped inside, looking around. It's cozy. It's small. It's you. That made her chest ache. She busied herself making tea, anything to avoid looking at him. I'm sorry, Dominic said, for all of it. The photos, the articles, the reporters. Harper set the kettle down harder than necessary. You can't control the media. No, but I should have protected you better. She turned to face him. How? By hiding me? By pretending I don't exist? No, by being honest. About us. About how much you mean to me. Her throat tightened. Dominic, he stepped closer. I love you. The words hung in the air, raw and unguarded. Harper's breath caught. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. I've loved you since the first time you told me to say thank you. Since you looked at me like I was just a man, not a title or a bank account. You made me feel human again, and I'm not letting the world take that away. Tears spilled down her cheeks. This is too hard. I know, but I don't care. I'll fight for you, for us, for as long as it takes. Harper shook her head. I'm just a bakery girl, and I'm just a man who's terrified of losing you. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. Please, don't give up on me. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. I'm scared. So am I. But we'll figure it out. Together. She looked up at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the love, the desperation. And she realized she loved him too. Okay. His eyes widened. Okay? Okay. I'm in. All the way. Relief flooded his face. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I promise I'll make this work. You better. Because if you break my heart, I'm going to bake the world's worst pastries and tell everyone you recommended them, He laughed. A real, full laugh. Deal. The next morning, Dominic held a press conference. Harper watched from his penthouse, heart in her throat. He stood at a podium. Cameras flashing. Reporters shouting questions. And then he spoke. I'm here to address the recent speculation about my personal life. Harper Monroe is not a gold digger. She's not using me. She's a kind, intelligent, extraordinary woman who's made me happier than I've been in years. And I'm in love with her. The room erupted. Dominic held up a hand. I know this is unconventional, but I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending. Harper makes me want to be a better man. And if the world has a problem with that, they can take it up with me, not her. Harper's hands covered her mouth, tears streaming. He looked directly into the camera. Harper, if you're watching, I meant what I said. I love you, and I'm not giving up. The press conference ended, and within minutes, Harper's phone exploded. Messages from friends, strangers, her grandmother. Jenna sent 50 exclamation points, but the only message that mattered was from Dominic. I meant every word. She called him immediately. You're insane. I know. You just told the entire world you love me. I know. Harper laughed through her tears. You're lucky I love you too. There was a pause. Then, say that again. I love you, Dominic Kane. Best words I've ever heard. Come home. I'm on my way. Harper grabbed her coat and ran. When she reached his building, he was waiting outside. The moment she saw him, she launched herself into his arms. He caught her, spinning her around, laughing. I can't believe you did that. Believe it. She kissed him, and the world fell away. The cameras, the reporters, the whispers. None of it mattered, because they had each other, and that was enough. Later, tangled together in his bed, Harper traced patterns on his chest. What happens now? Dominic kissed her hair. We take it one day at a time. What if it gets hard again? Then we'll deal with it. Together, she smiled. You're annoyingly optimistic. Only with you. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other, the city lights glittering outside. And for the first time in weeks, Harper felt at peace. Because love wasn't about perfect circumstances. It was about choosing each other every single day. And she chose him, just like he chose her. 3 months later, Harper's life had transformed in ways she never imagined. She still worked at the bakery, refusing to give up the place that grounded her. But now she also had a book deal. Her grandmother's recipes were being compiled into a cookbook, with Dominic's connections opening doors she'd never dreamed of. The media attention had shifted too. After Dominic's press conference, public opinion softened. People loved the idea of a billionaire falling for an everyday woman. Some called it a modern fairy tale. Harper called it exhausting, but worth it. Dominic had become a fixture in her tiny apartment above the bakery, much to Jenna's endless amusement. She'd walk in to find him sitting at Harper's wobbly kitchen table, laptop open, phone glued to his ear, looking hilariously out of place. You know, you have a penthouse, right? Jenna would tease. He'd glance at Harper, who'd be covered in flour and humming while she kneaded dough, and he'd say, "This is better." One Saturday morning, Harper woke up to find Dominic already awake, staring at her. "What?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "Just memorizing you." "That's creepy." He smiled, that smile that still made her heart flip. "Can't help it." She stretched, yawning. "What time is it?" "Early. Go back to sleep." "Can't. You're staring at me like a weirdo." He leaned down, kissing her forehead. "Fine. Get up." "I have a surprise." Harper perked up. "What kind of surprise?" "The kind you'll love." She narrowed her eyes. "If this is another expensive gift, I'm going to hit you with a rolling pin. It's not. I promise." An hour later, they pulled up in front of a small storefront in a trendy part of the city. The windows were papered over, The door locked. Harper looked at Dominic. "What is this?" "Your bakery." Her heart stopped. "What?" He handed her a key. "I know sweet crumbs means a lot to you, but I also know you've dreamed of having your own place. So, I bought this for you. Fully equipped kitchen. Space for a cafe, all yours." Harper stared at the key, then at him, then at the building. "Are you serious?" "Completely." Tears filled her eyes. "Dominic, this is too much." "No, you're too much. And you deserve this." She threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. "Thank you." He held her tightly. "You're welcome." They spent the day inside, Harper running from room to room, imagining where everything would go. Dominic watched, leaning against the doorframe, looking more content than she'd ever seen him. "What are you going to call it?" he asked. "Harper's Crumbs? Too obvious." "Sweet Dominic?" he snorted. "Terrible." She grinned. "I'll think of something." That evening, they sat on the floor of the empty space, eating takeout and watching the sun set through the windows. "I can't believe this is real," Harper said. "It is." She looked at him. "Sometimes I'm scared I'm going to wake up and you'll be gone. I'm not going anywhere." "Promise?" He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Promise." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you. I love you too." They sat there, wrapped in each other, the future stretching out before them like an open road. But not everything was perfect. A week later, Harper received a phone call that shattered her peace. "Miss Monroe, this is St. Mary's Hospital. Your grandmother's been admitted." Harper's world tilted. She grabbed her keys, called Dominic, and raced to the hospital. By the time she arrived, he was already there, waiting in the lobby. She collapsed into his arms. "She's stable," he said gently. "The doctors are with her now." Harper nodded, unable to speak. They sat in the waiting room for hours. Dominic held her hand, silent and steady. When the doctor finally emerged, Harper stood. "She had a stroke. We've stabilized her, but the next 24 hours are critical." "Can I see her?" "Of course." Harper walked into the room, her heart breaking at the sight of her grandmother, frail and pale, hooked up to machines. She took her hand, squeezing gently. "I'm here, Grandma." Her grandmother's eyes fluttered open. "Harper." "Hi." "You scared me." "Sorry, sweetheart." Her voice was weak. "Don't apologize. Just rest." Her grandmother smiled faintly. "That boy of yours, he's a good one." Harper glanced back at Dominic, standing in the doorway. "Yeah, he is. Don't let him go." "I won't." Her grandmother squeezed her hand. "Good. You deserve to be happy." Tears streamed down Harper's face. "So do you." "I am. Because of you." Harper stayed by her side all night. Dominic brought her coffee, food, anything she needed. He didn't leave. Not once. By morning, her grandmother's condition had improved. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Harper finally allowed herself to breathe. In the hallway, she found Dominic asleep in a chair, his suit wrinkled, his head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. She knelt beside him, touching his shoulder. "Hey." He woke instantly. "Is she okay?" "Yeah, she's gonna be okay." Relief washed over his face. "Good." Harper cupped his cheek. "Thank you. For staying. For being here. Always." She kissed him, soft and grateful. "I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out." Over the next few weeks, Harper's grandmother recovered. Slowly, but surely. And through it all, Dominic was there. Not as the billionaire CEO, just as Dominic, the man who loved her. One evening, as they sat on the steps outside Harper's apartment, she said, "You know, you're nothing like I thought you'd be." "Oh? What did you think I'd be like?" "Cold, arrogant, emotionally unavailable." He smirked. "And now? You're still arrogant, but you're also kind and warm, and you make me feel like I can do anything. That's because you can." She leaned against him. "I'm glad you walked into my bakery." "So am I." They sat there, watching the city lights flicker to life, and Harper thought about how much had changed, how a chance encounter with a cold billionaire had turned into the greatest love of her life, and how sometimes the best things happened when you least expected them. 6 months into their relationship, Harper opened her bakery. The grand opening was a whirlwind of excitement. Friends, family, and half the city showed up, drawn by the story of the bakery girl and the billionaire. Dominic stood beside her as she cut the ribbon, his hand resting on her waist. "Proud of you," he murmured. "Couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad I got to help." The bakery was a success from day one. Harper's recipes, combined with the cozy atmosphere and her genuine warmth, made it an instant favorite. Jenna joined as her business partner, and together they built something beautiful. But success brought new challenges. Harper was busier than ever, often working late into the night. Dominic, meanwhile, was navigating a major merger that consumed his time. They still saw each other, but the easy rhythm they'd fallen into began to strain. One night, Harper came home to find Dominic sitting in her apartment, tie loosened, exhaustion etched into his face. "Hey." She dropped her bag. "What are you doing here?" "I missed you." She smiled, crossing to him. "I saw you yesterday. That was 24 hours ago." She kissed him. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe. But I'm serious. We barely see each other anymore." Harper sighed, sitting beside him. "I know. I'm sorry. The bakery's been crazy, and I've been buried in meetings. We're quite the pair." He pulled her close. "I don't want us to become one of those couples who only see each other in passing." "Me neither." "So what do we do?" Harper thought for a moment. "We make time. No matter how busy we are, we prioritize each other." Dominic nodded. "Deal. Starting now." He stood, pulling her to her feet. "What are you doing?" "Taking you to dinner." "Dominic, I'm exhausted." "I don't care. You need to eat. And I need to spend time with you." She laughed. "Fine. But nowhere fancy. I'm wearing jeans." "Perfect." They ended up at a small diner, the kind with red vinyl booths and a jukebox in the corner. Harper ordered a burger, Dominic got the same, and they talked for hours. About everything. About nothing. And it felt like the early days again, except better. Because now they knew each other. The good, the bad, the messy. And they loved each other anyway. But not everyone was happy about their relationship. One afternoon, Harper received a visit at the bakery. A woman walked in, tall and elegant, wearing a designer suit. Harper recognized her immediately. Vanessa, the woman from months ago. "Can I help you?" Harper asked, keeping her voice polite. "I wanted to talk about Dominic." Harper's stomach tightened. "What about him?" Vanessa leaned against the counter. "You're making a mistake. Excuse me. He's not who you think he is." Harper crossed her arms. "And who is he? A man who uses people. A man who'll discard you the moment you're no longer useful." Harper's jaw tightened. "That's not true, isn't it?" Vanessa's smile was cold. "I've known him for years. He's calculating. Everything he does is strategic, including you." Harper stepped closer. "I don't know what your problem is, but Dominic loves me, and I love him. So whatever game you're trying to play, I'm not interested." Vanessa's expression hardened. "You'll see. When he gets bored, when the novelty wears off, you'll see exactly who he is." And then she left. Harper stood there, shaking. She told herself Vanessa was just bitter, jealous, but the words lingered. That night, when Dominic came over, Harper couldn't shake the conversation. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "Nothing." "Harper!" He tilted her chin up. Talk to me. She hesitated, then told him about Vanessa's visit. Dominic's expression darkened. She came to your bakery? Yeah. What did she say? Harper repeated the conversation. With each word, Dominic's jaw grew tighter. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what? For her. For dragging you into my mess. Harper cupped his face. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. I chose you. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. It's true. You're kind and open and real. And he trailed off. You're what? Damaged. Harper's heart ached. You're not damaged. You're human. He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw the boy who'd lost his mother, the man who'd built walls to survive, and she loved him even more. I'm not going anywhere, she said fiercely, no matter what anyone says. Promise? Promise. He kissed her then, desperate and deep, and Harper knew, no matter what challenges came, they'd face them together. The next day, Dominic dealt with Vanessa. Harper didn't ask for details, but she noticed Vanessa stopped calling, stopped showing up. And slowly, the tension eased. Life settled into a new normal. Harper's bakery thrived. Dominic's merger went through. And they learned to balance their lives, carving out time for each other even in the chaos. One evening, Dominic took her back to the waterfront, the same spot where they'd shared their first kiss. What are we doing here? Harper asked, revisiting a memory. She smiled. Sentimental much? Always. When it comes to you. They stood by the water, the city glittering around them. Harper? Yeah? He turned to her, and she saw something in his eyes. Nervousness. I've been thinking. About what? About us. About our future. Her heart began to race. Dominic, I know we've only been together a year, and I know there's still so much we're figuring out. But I also know I don't want to spend another day without you. He dropped to one knee. Harper's breath caught. Oh my God, Harper Monroe, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me laugh. You made me feel. You made me human again. And I don't want to go back to who I was before you. I want to spend every day making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Yes. She finally managed. Yes. 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 He slid the ring onto her finger, a simple, elegant band, and stood, pulling her into his arms. She kissed him, laughing and crying at the same time. I love you. I love you too. They stood there, wrapped in each other, the future stretching out bright and full of promise. And Harper realized this was what happiness felt like. Not perfection, not ease, but love. Real, messy, beautiful love. And she wouldn't trade it for anything. Planning a wedding turned out to be more complicated than Harper anticipated, not because of the logistics, but because of the expectations. Dominic's world wanted a spectacle, a grand affair at a luxury hotel with hundreds of guests and a price tag that made Harper dizzy. Harper's world wanted something simple, intimate, real. We could elope, Harper suggested one night, half joking. Dominic looked up from his laptop. Seriously? Why not? Just us. No pressure. No circus. He considered it. You'd really want that? Harper shrugged. I just want to marry you. Everything else is noise. He closed the laptop and pulled her onto his lap. Then let's do it. She blinked. Wait, really? Why not? It's our wedding. We should do it our way. Harper grinned. Your father is going to kill you. Probably. But I don't care. 2 weeks later, they flew to a small coastal town, just the two of them. The ceremony was on the beach at sunset, officiated by a local minister. Harper wore a simple white dress, barefoot in the sand. Dominic wore a suit, but no tie, his hair ruffled by the ocean breeze. As they exchanged vows, Harper thought about how far they'd come, from a chance encounter in a bakery to this moment, standing hand in hand, promising forever. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more," Dominic replied. "Impossible." He smiled, that smile that still made her heart race. "Try me." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, the waves crashing behind them. And it was perfect. When they returned, they threw a casual party at Harper's Bakery for friends and family. No formal reception, just good food, laughter, and the people they loved. Jenna cried through the entire thing. "I can't believe you got married without me. You were there in spirit. That's not the same." Harper hugged her. "I know. I'm sorry. But it was perfect." Jenna wiped her eyes. "I'm happy for you." "Really?" Dominic's father, predictably, was less enthusiastic. "You eloped." His tone was flat. "We did. That's irresponsible." Dominic's jaw tightened. "It's what we wanted. What about the company image? What about it?" Dominic's voice was calm but firm. "Harper is my wife, and if the board has a problem with that, they can deal with me." His father studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "She makes you happy?" "Yes." "Then I suppose that's what matters." It wasn't a warm acceptance, but it was a start. Life as a married couple was an adjustment. Harper moved into Dominic's penthouse, though she kept her apartment above the bakery as a retreat. Merging their lives meant merging their worlds. Dominic started spending more time at the bakery, occasionally helping out. He was terrible at it. "You're burning the croissants," Harper called from across the kitchen. "I'm not burning them. They're golden brown. They're charred." Dominic pulled the tray out, frowning. "They look fine to me." Harper walked over, took one look and laughed. "You're banned from the oven," he pouted. "That's unfair. It's necessary." She kissed his cheek. "Stick to what you're good at." "Like what?" "Being devastatingly handsome and rich." He grinned. "I can do that." Despite the teasing, Harper loved having him there. Seeing him in her world, trying to be part of it, meant everything. But their biggest challenge came 6 months into their marriage. Harper found out she was pregnant. She stared at the test, hands shaking, heart racing. They hadn't planned this, hadn't even talked about kids yet. When Dominic came home, that night, she was sitting on the couch, test in hand. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. Dominic froze. For a long moment, he didn't move, didn't speak. Harper's throat tightened. "Say something. Are you sure?" She nodded. "I took 3 tests." He crossed to her, kneeling in front of the couch. "How do you feel?" "Terrified." "Yeah. Me too." She looked at him. "Are you upset?" "No." "God, no." He took her hands. I don't know how to be a father. My own father wasn't exactly a role model." Harper squeezed his hands. "You'll be amazing. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because you're kind and patient, and you love fiercely. You'll be a great dad." His eyes glistened. "I hope you're right." "I am." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." They sat there, wrapped in each other, fear and excitement tangling together. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Harper had morning sickness that lasted all day. She was exhausted, emotional, and constantly craving weird combinations of food. Dominic was attentive to the point of being overbearing. "You need to rest." "I'm fine." "You're exhausted." "I'm pregnant. It comes with the territory." "Harper!" She glared at him. "If you tell me to rest one more time, I'm baking you into a pie." He held up his hands. Noted. Despite the challenges, there were beautiful moments. The first time they heard the heartbeat, the first ultrasound, the day they found out they were having a girl. A girl, Dominic repeated, staring at the screen. Harper smiled. Yeah, she's going to have you wrapped around her finger. Already does. As Harper's belly grew, so did their excitement. They painted the nursery together, argued over names, and read parenting books late into the night. One evening, Dominic rested his hand on her stomach, feeling the baby kick. She's strong, like her mom. Harper covered his hand with hers. She's going to be loved. So much. Dominic kissed her forehead. Thank you. For what? For this. For her. For everything. Harper's eyes filled with tears. Stupid hormones. He smiled. I love you. I love you too. The months passed in a blur, and then, one night, Harper's water broke. Dominic went into full panic mode. Okay. Hospital. We need to go to the hospital. I know. Where are the keys? You're holding them. He looked down. Right. Harper laughed despite the pain. You're a mess. I'm terrified. Me too. But we've got this. The labor was long and exhausting. Dominic stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragement. And then, after hours of pain and tears, their daughter was born. She was tiny. Perfect, with a tuft of dark hair and steel blue eyes. Dominic stared at her, tears streaming down his face. She's beautiful, just like you. Harper was too exhausted to argue. They named her Elena, after Dominic's mother. And as Harper held her daughter for the first time, she thought about how much had changed, from a bakery girl to a wife, to a mother. And through it all, Dominic had been there, not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, just as the man who loved her, who chose her every single day. And that was more than enough. The first few months of parenthood were a beautiful disaster. Neither Harper nor Dominic had any idea what they were doing. Elena cried constantly. She refused to sleep. And Harper was running on 2 hours of sleep and pure stubbornness. I don't know what she wants, Harper said one night, rocking Elena and fighting back tears. Dominic took the baby gently. Let me try. He walked her around the penthouse, humming softly, and miraculously, Elena quieted. Harper stared. How did you do that? No idea. She just likes me better. Harper threw a pillow at him. He grinned, dodging it. Despite the exhaustion, they fell into a rhythm. Dominic took paternity leave, much to his board's dismay, and devoted himself entirely to his family. Harper watched him change diapers, sing lullabies, and talk to Elena like she understood every word, and she fell in love with him all over again. One night, she found him in the nursery, holding Elena and staring out the window. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. How much I love her. How terrified I am of screwing this up. Harper wrapped her arms around him from behind. You're not going to screw it up. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because you love her. And that's all she needs. He turned, kissing her gently. Thank you. For what? For believing in me. Always. As Elena grew, so did their family. Harper's bakery expanded. Dominic stepped back from some of his responsibilities at work to spend more time at home. And they learned to navigate parenthood together. One afternoon, Harper brought Elena to the bakery. Jenna immediately scooped her up. She's gotten so big. I know. It's terrifying. Jenna tickled Elena, who giggled. You two are doing an amazing job. Harper smiled. We're figuring it out. That's all anyone can do. That evening, as Harper closed up the bakery, a familiar face walked in. Vanessa. Harper's stomach tightened. What do you want? Vanessa looked around, her expression unreadable. I heard you had a baby. We did. Congratulations. Harper crossed her arms. Is that all? Vanessa hesitated. I also wanted to apologize. For what I said. It was cruel and unfair. Harper blinked, surprised. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I was wrong. About Dominic. About you. I let my jealousy cloud my judgment." Harper didn't know what to say. Vanessa continued. "He's happy. Really happy. And I can see why. You're good for him." "Thank you." Vanessa nodded. "I'll leave you alone now. I just wanted you to know." And then she left. Harper stood there, processing. She didn't forgive Vanessa. Not entirely. But the apology was something. When she got home, she told Dominic. He was feeding Elena, who was making a mess of sweet potato puree. She apologized? "Yeah. How do you feel about that?" Harper sat beside him. "I don't know. But I think maybe she's trying to move on." "Good." He wiped Elena's face. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even her? Especially her. Harper smiled. "You're surprisingly forgiving. Only when it comes to people who don't threaten what's mine." He glanced at her. "And you and Elena? You're mine." She leaned over, kissing him, possessive as ever. Always. Life continued. Harper published her cookbook, which became a bestseller. Dominic's company continued to thrive, and Elena grew into a curious, headstrong toddler who had both her parents wrapped around her tiny finger. One evening, as they sat on the floor of the living room, Elena playing with blocks, Dominic said, "Do you ever think about having another?" Harper looked at him. "Another baby?" "Yeah." She considered it. "Maybe. Someday. When we're ready." He nodded. "No rush. I love this. Our family." "Me too." Elena toddled over, handing Dominic a block. Dada, his face lit up. "Thank you, sweetheart." She giggled and ran back to her pile of toys. Harper watched them, her heart full. This was her life now. Not perfect. Not always easy. But hers. And she wouldn't change a single thing. Later that night, after Elena was asleep, Harper and Dominic sat on the balcony, the city glittering below. "Do you ever miss it?" Harper asked. "Miss what?" "Your old life. Before me. Before all this." Dominic was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Not even for a second." She looked at him. "Really?" "Harper, before you, I was existing. Not living. You gave me a reason to smile, to feel, to be more than just a CEO. You gave me everything." Her throat tightened. "You gave me everything, too." He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her wedding ring. "I love you. I love you, too." They sat there, hand in hand, watching the city lights. And Harper thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a chance encounter in a bakery to this moment. A life built on love, on trust, on choosing each other every single day. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. And it was theirs. 3 years later, Harper stood in the kitchen of her second bakery location, watching the morning rush with satisfaction. 2 locations, a best-selling cookbook, and a family that made her heart full. Life was good. Dominic walked in. Elena perched on his shoulders, her dark hair in pigtails. "Mama!" Elena shouted. Harper grinned. "What are you two doing here?" "We came to see you," Dominic said. "And to get cinnamon rolls." Elena nodded enthusiastically. "Rolls," Harper laughed. "Coming right up." As she prepared their order, Jenna leaned over. "You know, I never get tired of seeing him here, in his $1,000 suit, surrounded by flour and chaos." Harper smiled. "He fits, doesn't he?" "Perfectly." After they left, Harper found a note tucked into her apron pocket. "Meet me at our spot tonight. 7 o'clock. Love, Dee." She smiled, her heart fluttering. That evening, Harper arrived at the waterfront, the same place where they'd shared their first kiss, where Dominic had proposed. Dominic was waiting, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in weeks. "What's this about?" Harper asked. "I wanted to do something. Just the 2 of us." She smiled. Elena? With Jenna. We have the whole night. They walked along the water, talking about everything and nothing. And Harper realized how rare these moments had become, not because they didn't love each other, but because life was busy. Full. At a bench overlooking the water, Dominic stopped. "Sit with me." She did. He took her hand. "I've been thinking." "About what? About how lucky I am." Harper tilted her head. "Where's this coming from? Sometimes I forget to tell you how much you mean to me, how grateful I am for everything you've given me." Her throat tightened. "You tell me all the time." "Not enough." He turned to face her. "Harper, you changed my life. You made me believe in love, in family, in happiness. And every single day, I wake up and thank God you walked into that bakery and told me to say thank you." Tears filled her eyes. "Dominic, I love you. More than I ever thought possible. I love you too." He kissed her, soft and lingering, and Harper felt the same spark she'd felt 3 years ago, the same pull, the same certainty. This was it. He was it. When they pulled apart, Dominic said, "I have something for you." He handed her a small box. Harper opened it. Inside was a bracelet, delicate and silver, with a single charm, a tiny rolling pin. She laughed through her tears. "It's perfect." He fastened it around her wrist. "So we never forget where we started." Harper kissed him again. "I could never forget." They sat there, wrapped in each other, the city glittering around them. And Harper realized this was what forever felt like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, but quiet nights, shared laughter, hands held tight. This was love, real, lasting, true, and she wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. When they got home, Elena was asleep on Jenna's lap. Jenna looked up, smiling. She was an angel. Harper grinned. Liar. Okay, she was a terror, but a cute terror. Dominic scooped Elena up gently. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you to bed." As he carried her to the nursery, Harper watched, her heart full. Jenna stood. "You okay?" "Yeah." "Why? You're crying." Harper wiped her eyes. Happy tears. Jenna hugged her. "You deserve this, all of it." "Thank you. For everything." "Hey, what are best friends for?" After Jenna left, Harper joined Dominic in Elena's room. He was tucking her in, brushing her hair back gently. "She looks like you," Harper whispered. "Thank God. She got your stubbornness." Harper snorted softly. "She got that from both of us." "Fair." They stood there, watching their daughter sleep. And Dominic said, "Do you think she'll understand someday?" "Understand what?" "How much we love her. How much she changed everything." Harper leaned against him. "Yeah, I think she will." They tiptoed out, closing the door softly. In their bedroom, Harper changed into pajamas, while Dominic scrolled through his phone. "You know," he said, "I never thought I'd be this guy." "What guy?" "The guy who leaves work early to pick up his daughter, who spends weekends at bakeries instead of boardrooms, who's completely and utterly in love with his wife." Harper climbed into bed beside him. "Do you regret it?" He set his phone down, pulling her close. "Not even for a second." "Good. Because you're stuck with me. Best decision I ever made." She kissed him. "I love you, Dominic Kane. I love you, Harper Kane." They fell asleep tangled together, and outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. But inside, in this small corner of the world, everything was exactly as it should be. 5 years after that first encounter in the bakery, Harper found herself standing on stage at a culinary awards ceremony. Her cookbook had won Best Debut, and she was surrounded by chefs and food critics who'd once seemed untouchable. But the person she searched for in the crowd was Dominic. He stood in the back, Elena beside him, both clapping wildly. When their eyes met, he mouthed, "I'm so proud of you." Her heart swelled. After the ceremony, they celebrated at home, just the three of them. Pizza on the floor, Elena's laughter filling the room. "This is perfect," Harper said, leaning against Dominic. "It really is." Elena crawled into Harper's lap. "Mama, tell me the story." "What story, baby?" "How you and Dada met." Harper and Dominic exchanged a smile. "Okay." "Once upon a time," Harper began, "there was a grumpy man who never smiled." "Dada wasn't grumpy," Dominic protested. Elena giggled. "Yes, he was," Harper continued. "And one day, he walked into a bakery. And there was a girl who wasn't afraid to tell him the truth, that he needed to say thank you." Elena's eyes were wide. "And then?" "And then," Dominic said, picking up the story, "the grumpy man realized the girl was the bravest, kindest, most beautiful person he'd ever met. And he fell in love." "Did she love him back?" Elena asked. Harper kissed Dominic softly. "Yes, she loved him very much." Elena clapped. "That's a good story." "The best," Dominic agreed. Later, after Elena was asleep, Harper and Dominic sat on the balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly, but Harper only had eyes for him. "Do you ever think about that first day?" she asked. "All the time." "What do you think about? How close I came to never walking into that bakery, how different my life would be." Harper shivered. "Don't. I can't imagine it." "Me neither." He pulled her close. "You're my everything, Harper. You. Elena. This life we've built. It's more than I ever dreamed of." She looked up at him. "You know, you smile all the time now." "Do I?" "All the time." He kissed her forehead. "That's because of you." They sat there, wrapped in each other, the future stretching out before them, full of possibility, full of love. And Harper thought about the girl she'd been 5 years ago, working in a bakery, dreaming small dreams, never imagining that a cold billionaire would walk through the door and change everything. But he had, and she'd changed him too. Together, they'd built something beautiful, something real, something lasting. This was their story, not a fairy tale, but something better. A love built on truth, on choice, on showing up for each other every single day. And as the city glittered below and Dominic held her close, Harper knew this was exactly where she was meant to be, in his arms, in this life, forever. What did you think of the story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what's your rating? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And check out more emotional stories by clicking on the end screen.